What's up, y'all? Dick Hi-Fi. We're going to be editing some samples. Earlier in an episode, we learned how to sample, just how to get it into the machine. Now we're going to learn how to edit them a little bit, how to manipulate them a little bit, get a little more creative and have some fun here. So I'm going to get another sample real quick. I got my sampling page up. I had hit sample. I got my threshold down low, so I'm going to start my record. I like that. All right, hit stop. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned this. I hit cancel just now when I wanted that sampling to stop. You hit no. It's yes and no. It's not that complicated, but you got to mention it. So it's asking me to play my root key. It's where I want my sample to, the exact sound that I had, where I want it to live. I want it to live here. That's an F. Again, learn your keys, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and you'll be able to communicate with your machine a little bit more. Just do it. Trust me. So one of the first things that we did in the other episode was the previous episode. We went to edit amp, and we made sure our boost was off, and then we pressed command amp, and it says normalize gain, and we want to hit yes. That's just making it as loud as it can before it clips. So we were trying to get the optimum gain level out of here. Volume is what we're talking about. So it's processing that. Okay, so that's as loud as it's going to get before clipping. So now what we're going to do is clip a little information off of the front. We're going to go to edit, wave. It's going to say mode, forward, no loop. That's where we want to be. We're going to go to the left. I'm sorry, to the right. There's a number in parentheses and a number that's at 0 right now. It gets big. This is the fine tuning of it. The one in the parentheses is the rough tuning. So you see, watch this. See, I slide up. The sample's starting in a different spot. So at 50, that would be exactly halfway through the sample I just did. So that's a big number. So let's go back to 0 here. I want to kind of start right on that. So I go to a lower key because things happen slower, and I can judge it better. I'm just listening and then scrolling up. You can also use the data entry slider if you want. I like using these for this specific operation. Alright, so it's got a little bit of a head there on it, but it's kind of cool for the sound. It's like a horn, so it goes out slowly. So alright, I like it there. Now I'm going to chop the end of it. So I'm going to scroll right one more time. It's going to say sample end. Same thing again. You got the fine tuning. You got the rough tuning. So this is where the end of the sample is going to happen. So I don't want that new sound that pops up. We might as well get rid of that because it doesn't really develop. So this is not much of a little trick, but a way to trim their tails instead of listening to the end of the sample the whole way. You know, the head of the sample, you just go ba 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 ba, and you know you can hear where you want it. So we're gonna go back to the mode where it says forward no loop. We're gonna press up once, and it's backward no loop. So now it's playing the back. We're going ass end first here. So I can kind of tell that that first little high sound is the one that I don't really need. So I'm going sample end and coming down. Still a little more. I think right there is good. So sample sounds good both ways, and we'll get into that in a minute. So go back to here. Alright, that's good enough. I can fine tune it later. I'm just trying to get the stuff that I'm not intending to use. I want to get it off of there. So now this is how I do that. I'm going to trim it off. I'm going to go command wave. Create new wave sample, nope. Copy, nope. Delete, nope. Wave sample information, no. Truncate wave sample, that's what we want. I hit enter. Data being processed. It clipped it off. Now, if you go back to edit wave, that was edit wave. That's the page we were in when we were editing the start and end. It's at 0 and 99 because we got rid of that stuff. So this is the new 0. So That's all well and good. Let's go back to our mode. Forward, no loop. There's backward, no loop, which is just as it says. It's playing the sample from end to beginning. Now if we go forward one more, it says loop forward. It's going to start the same way, but you notice when it gets right to the end, it's starting over again. So we have sample start, sample end, just like we did before, but now we got loop start and loop end and loop position. So let's tighten this loop up. So we want this to start just as before, but we want the loop to not just be the whole sample. I just want to loop a section of it. So I'll start with my end first. You know, I'll pull it about maybe a quarter of the way up, you know, a little less, 71. It sounds good. And I want it to start maybe halfway through, so we go to like 50. You know, we're just guessing at this point. Now I can, on the end, it's got a little bump. And I can fine tune it if there's any little like pops in there. So now it's got a little loop going. There's ways to smooth that out. We'll get into that later, of course. We'll go through all this stuff. One quick way to smooth it out, which I love to do, and I just love the sound of it, is not just loop forward, but we go back to mode, loop bi-direction. My favorite. You get a lot of mileage out of this. So now it's going to play it. It's going to go to the loop, and it's going to, instead of looping like this, like from the beginning to the end and then starting over again, it is going to loop like this, back and forth. Let's hear it. So half of that is backwards. So I'm gonna make it a little bigger. So I move the end toward the end more, and I'm moving the front toward the front more. So it's just making the loop bigger. And it just makes for interesting noises. I can't tell you how much I use this. Now, one thing I didn't show you on the other page, loop position. So I can keep the loop the same size, but I can move where it starts. So the loop position was at 51, that was beginning of the loop. I can scoot it forward. So you hear how it's different? As we get closer to the top, the beginning of the sample is included in there. Now we didn't make it bigger, we just moved it. So now the end is much closer toward the front. The loop end is at 38, so we can even make it longer. Or we can make it a lot smaller. You hear that? Hear that loop is, you know, that's obviously something manipulated. When you get a nice long smooth loop going both ways, sometimes you can't really tell. Alright, so there's also this other thing, like, you know, sometimes there's snaps and pops in the end of a loop. You just adjust your fine tune. There's no clicks on this one, which is, of course, I'm trying to show you where a click would be, but I can't find one. But generally when there's a click, if you just fine tune it, you can usually find your way out of it. Now, there is another thing that will allow you to kind of do that automatically. I don't like the machines to do anything automatically for me. I like to do it manually. But if you go to Edit System and scroll right a little bit, there's Master Tune, your Global Bend Range, Touch Medium, blah, blah, blah. Auto Loop Finding, off. Mine always stays off. But you can flip that on, and it'll kind of keep you away from values, those number values, numeric values that include a click in there. So, like I said, you can do it manually, and I much prefer to do it that way. But that's pretty much it. That's the basics of editing the sample in terms of the wave sample. Now, of course, just playing it on a different key, a very basic form of editing your sample. You're playing it different than when it went in, so you know that's an edit. There's a few more ways to do it. Your envelope, your filters. We're going to get into that in some next episodes, but that's a lot of fun. You can spend hours just wasting time making cool sounds, so you should do that. See you next time.